got the Friday Quickie edition of Mr. Relevant, presented by Door County Distillery, locally produced, handcrafted, and award-winning spirits. How you doing, everybody? Hope you're having a terrific Friday. I'm Alex Strouf with you from the Gruber Law Offices. One Call That's All Studios at the Avenue in beautiful downtown Milwaukee. Hunter Vaughn, Tiny Hands, holding it down for us back at the Everlight Solar Studio in downtown Madison. Lots to get to with the quarterback, Jordan Love, after another domino falls in the quarterback contract extension summer. Will Jordan Love be the next domino to fall? We'll get into all that, including some insights from the People's Insider, Pretty Rickey. You found out about him on this program. I found out about him on this program. We are going to read into the mind and the insights of the People's Insider, Pretty Rickey. Couple other things to get into as well, including Aaron Rodgers, the NBA Finals, and the Milwaukee Brewers we'll talk about a little bit to end the show today. But before all that, we go to Tiny Hands. We go to the brain of Tiny Hands. We say hello to Tiny Hands. Hunter, what's going on, my man? How are you?
I'm fine. I'm very concerned about what this Trevor Lawrence news means for the Cowboys and Dak Prescott. This starts driving that price up more, and I think they're in a race with Green Bay right now, and unfortunately, I think Green Bay is going to win that race, and I might be looking at either a holdout or we're going to see Dak Prescott with a 6 in front of his number 4 per year. I'm thinking that $60 million mark might happen.
Yeah, I'm thinking you might be right, dude. I'm thinking that might actually be the case. We joked, and I actually called Gary Ellerson, who we'll hope to have on the show sometime next week. I was filling in for Homer on the Homer Hour on ESPN Milwaukee. I think that was 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. And Gary pitched the idea of asking for $60 million, and I told him he was nuts. I told him that was an asinine number. All of a sudden, a couple weeks later, a couple of those dominoes fall, and it's looking like $60 million might actually be realistic territory per year. Maybe not for Jordan Love, but when you look at Dak Prescott, when you look at Tua Tagovailoa in Miami, all of a sudden that $60 million range might not be as asinine as I called it, like the ass I am to Gary Ellerson a few weeks ago on ESPN Milwaukee. $60 million might be a real thing this offseason. Because when Gary and I talked about it on the Homer Hour, and we'll get more into Jordan Love here in a minute, but when we talked about it in the Homer Hour, I said, yeah, Gary, that's fine to ask for, but it's not going to happen, right? In 3 years, it might happen. In 2 years, it might happen. But this year or next year, $60 million seems insane. And it's still high, right? That's still $5 million more per year than Joe Burrow, who is currently the highest paid per year quarterback in the NFL. But after this Lawrence deal, obviously Lawrence is with him now at $55 million a year. So it is something to keep an eye on as these dominoes continue to fall. And it shows you how good those quarterbacks were in that 2020 draft class, in that 2021 draft class, obviously, as Lawrence gets the extension that we'll dive into here in a moment. But just to give you a heads up, if you haven't seen it already, 5-year extension worth $275 million, which is $55 million a year. 200 of that guaranteed, 142 million fully guaranteed. How that works out is essentially if Lawrence doesn't get injured, he will make that $200 $200 million guaranteed. And if for some reason, God forbid, there is an injury to Lawrence, it would be down to 142. So we'll get more into that in a minute. But I do want to talk about two other things briefly before we really dive in to the Jordan Love deal, the Trevor Lawrence deal, and everything coming up this summer with the quarterback contract extension summer, the summer of QB contracts, if you will. We will just dive in quickly into the NBA Finals as once again the other day, Celtics get a win in Game 3 over the Dallas Mavericks. It was a fun one. Thought the Mavericks had a chance there at the end, and then the Celtics really pull away in the last 100 seconds or so. This series is a wrap. It's over. I think it ends tonight. We have to start having the conversation of, is this the most dominant postseason we've seen from an NBA champion? The Celtics were heads above everybody else in the regular season. They were the best team in the regular season. And then they just ripped through the competition in the postseason. If the NBA Finals ends in a sweep, it means the Celtics went 16-2, I believe, or maybe 16-3 this postseason. That's absurd. I mean, that is just an absolute tear through the NBA postseason, which is disappointing, right? Because you want this product, especially at the end of the year when it comes to the conference finals and ultimately the finals, you want that product to be electric, you want it to be competitive, you want it to be close, and it just hasn't been for the Celtics. Easy walk through the park in the Eastern Conference Finals, and it's looking like it might be more of the same here in the finals with a 3-0 lead going into Game 4 tonight at Dallas. As it's still a Mavericks home court advantage, and it's do or die time now for the Mavs. I think it's all over. I think it's over and done with for the Dallas Mavericks. So we will see what comes of that going forward, Hunter.
You know, you mentioned this being one of the most potentially dominant playoff performances. I did have to look it up because I couldn't remember what the record was. But that 2016-2017 Golden State team, they did go 16-1.
They did. That's
in
true.
Their postseason run. So I think the Celtics are probably number 2 after that, unless there's some team from the 80s, like one of those other Celtic teams or something. That Golden State team, I still think, is number 1. So it's nice to know that we're not watching the most dominant performance, given that the Celtics are kind of a rival to the Bucks. But this has been the most boring NBA Finals in a long time. Like, just any of the games, I'm just like, Boston's going to figure this out. Dallas could put up a 20-point halftime lead, and I'd still just be like, yeah, Boston's probably still going to make this a game, and it'll still probably go their way. Like, that's just how I feel about this game. I don't trust Luka to actually do anything other than complain to the refs. And it just, I don't care. I spend more time on TikTok.
He's done plenty of that.
Ugh. I don't like this NBA Finals. And it's even worse because the NHL Finals are just as bad.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that, man. NHL Finals are a blowout. This is a blowout. This is supposed to be the best product, so it's disappointing when it happens this way, but it was still a fun postseason. But I think it's over tonight. I think the NBA season ends tonight. And then we turn our attention to the draft and future Milwaukee Buck Bronny James. That's what comes next. Other thing I want to talk, pretty much wrap, is the Aaron Rodgers conversation we had earlier in the week, which essentially is this, right? Aaron Rodgers 3 months ago says he wants all distractions out of the building in New York. He shows up to most of the offseason program and then misses the mandatory minicamp this week because he's off doing something that's important to him. But Robert Saleh still using the verbiage, it is an unexcused absence, and he is subject to fine. I imagine they won't fine him, but he is subject to it because it was listed as unexcused by his head coach. And optically, it's just horrible. It makes Aaron Rodgers look like a giant hypocrite. And it just makes me sad that I hate Aaron Rodgers the way I hate him as a player. You're not even a player as I don't want to say a person because I don't know him personally, but the hatred and the disdain that I feel for Aaron Rodgers just makes me sad as a Packers fan. Like I have a really cool canvas of Aaron Rodgers walking out onto Lambeau Field that's in black and white that I had hanging in my living room at one point. And it's just like, as I move, it's like, I don't think I'm going to hang that up. You know, he was the greatest football player, most fun to watch. And I still think that will be the case if he remains healthy in 2024 for the Jets. I think he's going to be still at 40 years old, a thrill to watch. But it makes me sad that I feel the way I feel about Aaron Rodgers, who gave Packers fans so many amazing moments over the years. But the way things ended in Green Bay, it was a nasty divorce. And now the way he's moved on and the way he's on the Pat McAfee show and the way he is a distraction and says they need all distractions out of the building, it just doesn't sit right with me, and that's disappointing.
You know, I'm reminded of the cinematic masterpiece that is The Dark Knight, and you either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
Good reference, yeah.
That's Aaron Rodgers right now. That's what it's become.
Yeah.
That's what it's turned to. And, I mean, as an outsider, it's funny to me, but I totally get that, like, this has to suck, and I do feel a little bit bad for you. I also don't because of the number of times that the Packers have beaten my Cowboys.
Yeah, that's fair.
So it's kind of bittersweet, but, like, as your friend, I totally get it. This has to just be really annoying.
It's annoying. It's frustrating. It's infuriating to a point because the Dark Knight quote is lovely there, Hunter. Right? Like it totally applies because he was a hero. He won them a Super Bowl. He's a 4-time MVP. He was he was Mahomes before Mahomes, minus all the Super Bowl wins. Just in terms of talent and raw ability, and when you have that guy on your team, you think you're going to win every single game. And he's just like this hero. And growing up, like as he grew up in Green Bay, he seems like such a great dude to replace Favre, and he's doing everything right. And then all of a sudden it just went downhill, and it turned into this nasty divorce, and now he turns into this anti-hero villain type in New York. And this week was just weird with that, right? Like showing up to all of the offseason program and then it being called unexcused for the mandatory minicamp, it's just frustrating and sad. So we'll leave that at that. Now let's move on to this stuff, though. This is what you came for, right? Trevor Lawrence and the Jacksonville Jaguars signed a big extension yesterday, according to pretty much everybody. Ian Rappaport, Adam Schefter had it. As I mentioned earlier, 5-year, $275 million deal, $55 million a year. He ties Joe Burrow as the highest paid quarterback in the NFL. Hunter, I love getting after you, and I'm going to right now. Keep the graphic on the screen, please, but I want you to come on the screen.
Okay. Did I spell something wrong?
Just read it to me out loud.
Trevor Lawrence gets 55 per year. Oh, yeah, I suppose million. I mean, million.
It's implied.
Yes, it's implied. And I'll show you, I will show you. I just didn't like how it looked. I thought that it still worked, but
well, just put the M. Just leave the M. Get rid of the alien.
I don't like doing that.
I think that looks
I don't
good.
like how that looks.
Keep it.
Okay, fine. It was an aesthetic choice by me. It didn't work out.
I love it.
I tried.
It's Friday. I just got to get after you a little bit. So Trevor Lawrence getting $55 a year, $55 million per year from the Jacksonville Jaguars. So this is the interesting part to me. Because, Hunter, I just want to use you as the poll. And I don't think everybody agrees, and I don't know that there is a total the sample size is larger for Lawrence, so it's hard to draw the comparisons. But, Hunter, I told you right now, Dak's gone, but you can have your pick as a Cowboys fan. You could have your picks at either Trevor Lawrence or Jordan Love as your quarterback in Dallas. Who are you picking?
Oh, man.
Okay, so but I want you to make a choice. But
yeah,
your hesitation is kind of proving in here.
Yeah, I think I would go Trevor Lawrence, given that playoff comeback. That was just something that I'm like, you can't teach somebody to be able to do that. So I think that would be probably the direction that I would go.
And I'm fine with that, right? Like, I think there are comparisons to draw between Love and Lawrence, and last year was a little bit of a down year for Lawrence, but he's still a good quarterback, and he's clearly good enough to be a franchise quarterback. And that's, of course, assuming progression, which I think you'll get with him. And the investment the Jaguars have made offensively this offseason makes them the favorite in the AFC South, or one of the favorites, given how good the Texans have been, obviously, last year. And you hope that development continues for them. But it's making it a little bit more of an intriguing division. So when it comes to Jordan Love and Trevor Lawrence getting $55 million a year, Hunter's hesitation on which guy he'd rather have shows you that what? Jordan Love is going to be in that pay grade. He is going to probably become, either momentarily or at least for this offseason, the highest paid quarterback in the league. If you're Jordan Love's camp, how do you look at Jared Goff getting $53 million and now Trevor Lawrence getting $55 million and say, hey, why am I not worth $56 million a year? Why am I not worth $57.5 million a year? Why am I not worth $55 million a year? Trevor Lawrence ties Joe Burrow as the highest paid quarterback in the league on an annual basis, $55 million a year. If you're Jordan Love's camp, how do you listen to the Packers pitch anything but being in that same pay grade, pay scale? How can you listen to the Packers make a case against giving Love $55 million a year? All the leverage is in the camp of Jordan Love now. And Jordan Love, who's been very smart, and we talked about it at length on Wednesday, about not really saying much publicly when it comes to his impending contract extension. Brian Gutekunst, the general manager of the Packers last week, talking to the media, said, we want to get it done by training camp for sure. So that means you have an end date at the very latest. That's July 22nd. That's the day training camp starts. Monday, July 22nd for the Green Bay Packers in Green Bay. So you have just over 5 weeks to get this thing to a done deal. But you got to keep in mind, there's more to this story. There's other quarterbacks out there that are waiting for their payday too. Tua Tagovailoa in Miami, Dak Prescott, Hunter's guy in Dallas are both awaiting big paydays. So what happens to this 55 per year? It's only going up. This number for Jordan Love and for Dak Prescott and for Tua Tagovailoa is only going up, because if you're any of those three guys, there's one goal. It's to be the highest paid quarterback in the league. And given the quarterback contract summer we've already had with Jared Goff and now Trevor Lawrence and Kirk Cousins earlier in the offseason, who got $45 million a year, who's in the top 10. This is only going up. So I imagine for the Dolphins, Cowboys, and Packers alike, this is a race to who's next, because I don't think you want to be the last one standing from a team perspective, because that number's only going up, Hunter.
Since it is going up, let's just hypothetically say the Packers are last in that race, and Tua goes 57.5, and then Dak decides to be petty and goes 58. So neither of them hit that $60 million. Is Jordan Love sitting at 55, 56, or is he the 59 to 60? If he goes third.
If he goes third, I would guess, I don't think, we talked about it a little bit at the beginning, and I want to talk about it a little bit deeper. I don't think anybody's getting 60 this offseason. I think you're staying under 60 this year, and I think next year or the following year will probably be when we start getting contracts in $60 million a year range. I would guess, first off, and we'll talk about Pretty Rickey, who's just, it's such a funny.
It's incredible.
It's such a funny story to me, and I'll explain for anybody that's maybe new to the show, who wasn't around when we discovered Pretty Rickey. But if my instincts tell me anything, Hunter, I would guess the next quarterback to sign will be $55 million as well. And I think it'll be Love. I think Love will be the next one to get it done. Between Tua, Dak, and Love, I think Love will be the next one to put the ink on the paper. And I think that'll be at 55 a year.
Well, I mean, I think it's easy to say that when you have the People's Insider nudging you in that direction, one.
Well, he hasn't said anything about prices. So let's bring up Pretty Rickey, but I don't want to dive into the full Pretty Rickey story quite yet.
No, but I just, you have someone who's been right about a lot of things, and if he's correct on what you've been told, that might be the next one to go. Yep. I have this weird feeling that Dak Prescott's going to hold out.
I think you're right. I mean,
and
I just think that's the way that's going.
I pray that Trey Lance is average, maybe above average. So then the Cowboys can be like, fine, go ahead, leave, and they don't have to deal with it. Because I don't want to see Dak get $60 million or pushing $60 million, and then Trey Lance just goes somewhere else and is an average quarterback who could have won with the weapons that the Cowboys have. That's my biggest fear about this whole thing for them. For the Packers, this is great. Because I think, like we've said, this number is only going to go up. I think Jordan Love getting a $56, $57 million deal, or right at that 55 even, they're going to see that in 3 years and be like, oh, we got to steal at quarterback. Yeah. He's going to be sitting at number 8, number 9 in the league and potentially playing as the top 3. It's going to be great for him.
It's a great point. Yeah. I mean, and you look at some of these other deals, right? Like Mahomes signed his several years ago. He's the most guaranteed money and the longest. It was a 10-year deal he signed, but it's only $45 million a year. So he's like number 8 right now. And Mahomes is Mahomes, right? Like, he is by far the best quarterback in the league. He might be the best we've ever seen in terms of talent and ability to swing a game. He might be number 1. I think Rodgers is high on that list too, but Mahomes is the best we've ever seen, debatably, in that category. And look, he's got a few Super Bowls now. This might be the next, combination of like talent of Rodgers and winning ability of Brady. Mahomes is the 8th in terms of annual value in the league right now. Or actually, I think that he now becomes the 9th after Lawrence's extension. Fascinating. So
I
go ahead.
Yeah, this made me just think of this as you said that, because then there's 3 other quarterbacks that have to move up. So potentially Patrick Mahomes falls out of the top 10. We're going to be looking back at all of this and everyone's going to talk about the same thing for Patrick Mahomes that we have been about Tom Brady. About how he was taking these discounts. Like, no, at the time, dude was top 5 in the league for what he was getting paid when he signed his deal. But because the NFL, is just making money hand over fist, it looks like it's like not a big deal now because that cap just keeps skyrocketing. So I feel like we almost need to remember that like what they're signing now are huge deals. So they were signing giant deals that took up a huge percentage of the cap. It's going to be a lesser percentage in 4 years because of the cap continually going up.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. It's a good point. And that's why $60 million I thought was outrageous now, but it might not be in a year. And it certainly won't be in 5 years, given the way that the cap, if you get into all that minutia, right? Like the cap continues to skyrocket for teams. So let's talk Pretty Rickey because I
just feel like I might have stumbled into something else and I need to run it past you because I don't want to let this sit until like Monday or something. Did I just stumble into maybe Tom Brady's legacy isn't exactly what we think it is?
I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this 2 days after he gets inducted into the Patriots Hall of Fame and 60,000 people show up. We're not doing this right now. This is Tom Brady's week. We'll let that one breathe. I mean, that's a great offseason subject, but I'm not doing that right now. All right, so you see if you're watching on the YouTube stream or the Facebook stream, you're seeing Pretty Rickey is highlighted on the sidebar. So Pretty Rickey is a Twitter account. Pretty Rickey, Rickey, 213 on Twitter. Pretty Rickey 213 has 25,000 followers. But when we discovered Pretty Rickey, it was back in January. Colin Russo, who's been on this show many times, he's a giant Jags fan. However, he is abroad. I FaceTimed him this morning. He's on an airplane right now. Couldn't join us to react to the Trevor Lawrence deal and what that means for love. He's going to a party boat. What a crazy person. Anyway, he discovered Pretty Rickey very early on. He had about 2,000 or 3,000 followers at the time that Colin came on the show and was talking about this guy. And it was ahead of NFL free agency. And he said, hey, dude, like you gotta follow this guy. He's insane. He gets everything right. And so for a while now, I've been following Pretty Rickey 213 on Twitter. And he's been right about everything. When it comes to the NFL draft, he had the picks 10 minutes before everybody else. When it comes to these contract extensions, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jared Goff, the Kirk Cousins deal in Atlanta, he had all of these reported before your Adam Schefters and your Ian Rappaports. Yesterday, he tweeted out that the Trevor Lawrence deal was done. And then 27 minutes later, Ian Rappaport and Adam Schefter tweeted out that the deal was done with the numbers. Ricky doesn't always have the numbers, but he knows when the deals are done. I don't know who he is or she is. I don't know anything. Obviously, this is a pseudonym. That's the right word, right? When you go out, when you have a pen name, Pretty Rickey, yeah, pseudonym. I don't know what this person's background is, but clearly they know stuff. And the tweet today from Pretty Rickey was this: after the Trevor signing, all eyes are now on Dak, Tua, and Jordan Love. Who tops the market next? ? And then this is the real interesting stuff. I'm hearing the Packers are racing to get a deal done with Jordan Love before QB prices go up. Sounds like Packers want to get the deal done before Tua and Dak sign. #GoPackGo. That from Pretty Rickey 213 on Twitter today. So if the Packers are racing to get a deal done, that means, could we see it this weekend? Could we see it early next week? Could it happen way before that training camp deadline that Brian Gutekunst brought up last week when he was speaking to the media? I think yes. And look, I don't want to get got by the internet troll, and I don't want to get got by anybody, but this has become somebody that's been proven right time and time again. This is your new age media, folks. When somebody with a picture of the Bud Light dog from the 1980s can be your inside source, and frankly has been your inside source for the last 6 months. Pretty Rickey 213 has been right about everything they've tweeted out. And now today, I'm hearing the Packers are racing to get a deal done with Jordan Love before QB prices go up. That's interesting. Rob says, Ricky Stanicky? Not quite. Bite me on the YouTube chat. Says Trevor isn't half the quarterback Love is. If they pay Trevor $55 million a year, then Jordan Love should get a 10-year deal for $600 million. Average annual, of course, of $60. It's an interesting thought. I just don't think the Packers are ready to sign Love to that long-term of a deal. It'll be 4 or 5. It won't be 10. The Chiefs saw everything they needed to with Mahomes when they signed him to 10. You have not seen everything you needed to with Jordan Love. Although you're impressed and you'd like his potential and you obviously know the ceiling is very high for Jordan Love, you're not ready to sign him to a 10-year deal after 1 year. You're just not. It's unfortunate because, don't get me wrong, Bite Me, great name, by the way. I just don't think after 1 year you can be like, hey, here's 10 years, $600 million. But yeah, I mean, if everything works out with Love the way we think it should work out with Love, in 3 years, that deal would look great. Just like right now, the deal with Mahomes looks great. It'll eventually be restructured, though, I imagine. So interesting. We will see. We will see. But Pretty Rickey, been totally right on everything. Says the Packers are racing. So I would just say, I'm not saying this is a report, but I'm just saying if you're a Packers fan, I'd probably go to Pretty Rickey 213 on Twitter and turn on those tweet notifications or those X notifications. Because he'll let you know it's coming before it actually comes. Something to keep an eye on. Pretty Rickey, the highlight of my life today. A deal is coming. The Packers are racing. They want to be done before Tua and Dak. And absolutely. Right? If you're Russ Ball, if you're Brian Gutekunst, do you want to be the next domino to fall? Shoot, you probably wanted that domino to fall before Trevor Lawrence, but Jordan Love and his camp playing it smart. We'll sit back and relax. We know it's coming. We know the payday's coming. Hey, Dak, go ahead. Go ahead and sign 57.5. We'll wait. It's a tough part about negotiations because in my eyes, I want Jordan Love to get his, but I also want the Packers to make the best financial decision as a Packers fan, right? Like I want them to have the room to sign some of these wide receivers when that day comes in 2 years. I want them to have room to make a splash in free agency like they did this year with Xavier McKinney and Josh Jacobs. If you sign your quarterback to let's just say $56 million a year becomes the number for Jordan Love. If you sign him to that, cap looks a little tricky the next 2 years. What happens when Christian Watson's a free agent and he's been healthy? What do you do with Romeo Doubs in 2 years? I don't know. It just gets a little sticky. I want Jordan Love to get his, but I don't want it at $60 million a year. 56 is about as uncomfortable as I'm willing to get, where I could say, yep, let's do it. We will see. We will see. Mr. Relevant brought to you by Door County Distillery, locally produced, handcrafted, award-winning spirits made locally in beautiful Door County. If you're heading up to Door County, maybe this weekend or next weekend, you got to stop in. You got to check it out. Do the tour, do the tastings, check out the limited edition product they have on site there in Carlsville in the southern part of Door County. Or, if you're not going to Door County, bring Door County to you because it's already right here. They're available everywhere. Milwaukee, Madison, any of the in-betweens where you are in the state of Wisconsin, Door County Distillery does it better than everybody. Whether it's the cherry vodka with the local Door County cherries or the cherry brandy for your old-fashions, summery old-fashions. Maybe you're a whiskey person like myself. Their bourbon's delicious. Their single malt whiskey is like a 28-time award winner. They've got rye whiskey as well. That's your style, and that is really good. Really, really good as well. DoorCountyDistillery.com to find the retailer nearest you as well as a list of unique cocktail recipes. They have a huge list of unique cocktail recipes because they're awesome. They do a great job of making recipes that are just delicious, and they've got a ton of summer recipes up on their website. You can scan that QR code right now on the screen if you want to check out that website, or just visit DoorCountyDistillery.com. They do it better than everybody else. They are awesome. We're about to take a 60-second break, but I referenced Snoop Dogg. I'm going to see Snoop tomorrow. Pretty fired up about that. Have not seen Snoop Dogg in concert. Pretty fired up to see Snoop tomorrow here in Milwaukee. All right, 60-second break. When we come back, we'll wrap up the Jordan Love conversation as well as wrap up the week on Mr. Relevant. I'm Alex Strouf.
Back at Door County Distillery in Carlsville, Wisconsin, with my friend Beth from Door County Distillery. We're mixing up the peach gin and juice today. That sounds like Snoop Dogg would love it. Talk to me, Beth. What are we mixing?
So we're using our gin, our flagship gin today. It's gin, lemonade, a little grenadine, and then our peach wine. So you remember the Carlsville sour we did last year?
I do, very well, yeah.
Same concept. It's just the gradient's gonna be in reverse. So we're gonna start with 1.5 ounces of our gin.
The classic green bottle.
We're gonna do 1 ounce of grenadine, 2 ounces of our lemonade. We're gonna stir that with our bar spoon.
Got it, before we add the wine.
And then we're gonna use the back of our bar spoon to float the peach wine on top. And there we go.
Looks like summer to me, Beth. Cheers.
Cheers.
The peach gin and juice from Door County Distillery with my friend Beth.
Check out their website with a huge list of unique cocktail recipes at DoorCountyDistillery.com. That's DoorCountyDistillery.com. Yeah, DoorCountyDistillery.com is the place to go. Just reading some of your comments, some of the reaction on Facebook, YouTube. David on the ESPN Milwaukee YouTube. So you're saying, Strouf, Pretty Rickey can see the future? The people's fortune teller. Indeed. Pretty Rickey can see the future. He's telling you a deal's coming. A deal is coming, David. And that's according to Pretty Rickey. Pretty Rickey 213 on Twitter. Rickey with an E, by the way. Rickey 213 on Twitter. More reaction. ESPN Madison YouTube chat. Friend of show says, been following Rickey forever. What an account. He's right about everything. Everything. He's gotten it all on the head. He's missed a few times. He has missed a few times. And he calls himself out for his misses. Pinned to his profile. As the people's insider, I always stand by my wrongs. Judge me on my losers because I have so few. LJ Snead trade to Indy. Confirmed and stood by it was wrong. Devin White, wrong team. Josh Reynolds, wrong. I work for the fans, not the billionaires. I do this for the love of the game. Pretty Rickey. Amazing. Can't believe we just based the whole show around Pretty Rickey. Something to keep an eye on, though, with Jordan Love, as he says the Packers racing to get a deal done before the quarterback prices go up, which they already are after Trevor Lawrence signs a $55 million per year deal with the Jacksonville Jaguars. T-Law, the future in Jacksonville. J-Love going to be the future in Green Bay. Just a matter of time. Hey, we already talked about 1X. Let's talk about another one. We talked about Aaron Rodgers earlier. Let's talk about Craig Counsell now, the new manager of the Chicago Cubs. Cubs are in 4th place in the NL Central. And, honey, new Craig Counsell meme is dropped. Take a look on the YouTube stream. Look at Craig Counsell interviewing, completely disheveled look. Looks like Craig Counsell hasn't had a haircut in a minute.
Poor
His
guy.
hair's everywhere. He looks tired. The Cubs keep losing. He's exhausted. I mean, I just love this. And look, I call Aaron Rodgers a hypocrite, so I don't want to be one myself. I said 2 weeks ago, if we're being honest with one another, Hunter, is my chair dropping? I feel like my chair has fallen quite a bit since we started the show. I feel like I've gotten lower on the screen on the YouTube stream. Anyway.
No, I wasn't paying attention to that at all. You were fine. You get distracted way too easily.
I do, yeah. ADHD for sure. But with Craig Counsell, I said a few weeks ago, hey, shouldn't we just get to a point where we're over it? Right? Like, he had his homecoming. He came back as the Cubs manager. He got booed out of the building. The Brewers won the series. We can be over it now, right? Like, we can still boo him. I'm not against booing him. But we can stop trash talking him now. I'm going to be a hypocrite. I mean, look at this picture. As David puts it on the ESPN Milwaukee YouTube chat, he looks like he's hungover after a night out. Yeah, a little bit. He just looks disheveled. Hair's everywhere. He's staring off into space while he's got microphones in his face. A couple extra wrinkles, bags under his eyes. He looks rough. Life ain't so pretty in the South, eh? Craig, is it? Nah, I'm over it. I really am over it. And then, yeah, Hunter pops up the box score of the NL Central standings. Brewers 40-28. St. Louis 33-34, 6.5 games back. Cincinnati 33-35, 7 games back. Uh-oh! Cubs 33-36, 7.5 games back of the Brewers. And then in last place, the Pittsburgh Pirates 32-36, 8 games back. Just a half game back of 4th place, though, of the Chicago Cubs. Brewers have a nice lead right now. as it stands in the NL Central. 6.5 game lead here in mid-June.
For being a franchise like the Cubs that like to believe that they're this great institution and everything, you really can't talk that way and then be battling, trying to stay out of last place with the Pittsburgh Pirates, who are they're like 5-6 years out from being able to compete. Like, you can't have the highest paid manager in all of baseball and then be like, yep, we're a half game out of last place. Like, that's right. That's so bad. Like, even just from a standard baseball conversation, even if the Brewers weren't in the same division,
this is what
it's just bad.
This is what he earned. This is what he earned. New Craig Counsell meme. Just want to continue to revisit some of the reaction. I mean, I love the reaction coming in the comments. Keep them coming on the Jordan Love stuff. This is an interesting one from Trish on the ESPN Madison YouTube stream. Doesn't quarterback greed alienate teammates? I see veterans on the team making less than $3 million a year. Green Bay couldn't even come up with $7 million for Aaron Jones. So there's a lot in that comment from Trish. And Trish, really appreciate you watching and chiming in. Yes, quarterback greed can alienate teammates. However, in this scenario with Jordan Love, players support players. They're not checking other people's pockets. They want you to get yours. When Jordan Love gets paid, guess how his teammates are going to react? With confidence, with compliments, with hand claps, with hell yeah, dude, attaboys. People are going to be pumped for Jordan Love in that Green Bay locker room. They want Jordan Love to get paid because Jordan Love has handled, that's not past tense, has handled everything perfectly with the Green Bay Packers. From sitting behind Aaron Rodgers when he was going through the divorce process, from taking over as the starter and having all eyes on him, unfairly or fairly, replacing now Favre and Rodgers and being the next guy in that line. It's a little bit of a daunting task, but he handled it with grace. He answered every question asked of him perfectly. And here he is, waiting his turn now again to get paid in this quarterback contract summer. He's handled it perfectly. His teammates won't be upset with him. When it comes to the veteran part of it, those guys will sign their deals when that comes. Kenny Clark is an example of it. He's doing extension after this year. Will he get a third contract from the Packers? My gut tells me no. My head, though, tells me yes, because I still think he's got plenty of good ball left in him. Green Bay not being able to come up with $7 million for Aaron Jones, they could have, because they did it for Josh Jacobs. But when it comes to a veteran like that, they'd rather kind of reset the clock with an all-pro, and they did that with Josh Jacobs. Let's not look at the Aaron Jones thing the way that Trish suggests we are. And I'm not saying, Trish, you're wrong for viewing it that way, because Aaron Jones is an absolute fan favorite. And I think, personally, we saw Jones' best 5-game stretch at the end of last season, going into the postseason as well, against Dallas and San Francisco. I count that as game 4 and 5 of the 5-game stretch. He was awesome at the end of the season last year. But let's not get it twisted. The Packers undeniably upgraded at running back this offseason by bringing in Josh Jacobs. It is an undeniable upgrade. They got younger, they got better, and by the way, they invested in the backup in the draft with Marshawn Lloyd out of USC. And hey, you brought back A.J. Dillon on $1 million. So yeah, you did all right at that position group. I don't think Jordan Love waiting and taking his time and his camp taking their time on this contract extension alienates anybody. But I understand your point, and it could certainly get to that point if, let's say, Jordan Love starts holding out in training camp, like Dak Prescott will likely do in Dallas. That would alienate your team. But I don't think it has anything to do about the money. I think guys want their guys to get theirs, if that makes sense. Hunter, go ahead.
I also think it really only turns into quarterback greed if it was a guy like Gardner Minshew who almost got the Colts into the playoffs. And then he's like, well, I want $55 million a year now.
Right.
Like, then that's where I think that would alienate your teammates. Or if you're a Jamarcus Russell coming in as a rookie and you almost reset the quarterback market as a rookie before you've ever taken a snap. Like, those moments are what'll alienate your teammates. A quarterback who came in his first year and performed phenomenally well and had a huge playoff win and played well, like, his teammates understand what his value is, especially when I mean, heck, you watch any podcast or any show that any of these players come on, they understand that the quarterback's the most important position on the field. That's what drives this team. So they need to then get the majority of the money when you break it down from player to player. And I think most guys get that for the guys who actually deserve it, and they know who does and doesn't deserve it. And Jordan Love absolutely deserves it.
He does. He does. After what he did last season, after winning a playoff game on the road, after all of the waiting and BS he had to go through, he earned it. He earned it. All right, let's wrap up the show as we always do. You learn something new every day. Let me know what you learned in the YouTube comments as we lead into the weekend. ESPN Milwaukee, ESPN Madison YouTube, ESPN Madison on Facebook. I learned a couple things. Number one, if you missed it on Wednesday, we did an edition of 10 questions. Hunter wrote 10 questions for me, and I answered them true or false leading into the Green Bay Packers season. We have the whole segment, about 13 minutes, posted on the ESPN Madison YouTube page. It's got about 1,200 views right now, 7 comments, including this one. One of the questions that Hunter asked me was, will Jordan Love get over 35 total touchdowns? I said, it's going to be close. William in the YouTube comments goes, with rushing touchdowns, he might get 45. I just said, I love this confidence. And he said, give me a shout out. I said, I will. I will give you a shout out, William. Well done by you. Well done by you. David, in the ESPN Milwaukee YouTube chat, says, I learned Craig Counsell, like 99% of the general population, looks terrible after a night out. Well, if that was a night out, I want to reprioritize. The other thing I learned today, this afternoon, Eugene Hilton Jr., a wide receiver, who is a heavily recruited wide receiver, whittled down his commitment. He's got his top 7, Georgia, Miami, Purdue, Ole Miss, Missouri, Kansas, and Wisconsin. Eugene Hilton Jr., a very highly touted receiver, going to make his recruitment tonight, or his commitment tonight, rather, on an Instagram Live. Eugene Hilton Jr. Who is Eugene Hilton Sr.? I looked into that. And his pops is pretty famous. His pops had a pretty good NFL career for the Indianapolis Colts. His pops, Eugene Hilton Sr., T.Y. Hilton, the former wide receiver for the Colts. T.Y. Hilton's name is Eugene. I always figured T.Y. stood for something, right? Like, I don't know. I don't know a first name that starts with Y, but Tyler or Trevor and something that starts with, I just always figured it was T.Y., right? Like A.J. or MJ or DJ. Stands for something. Nope, doesn't. His name's Eugene. I never knew that. But I hope the Badgers get Eugene Hilton Jr. Hope they get his commitment. But Eugene Hilton, I never knew that, Hunter.
I just looked it up, and according to Wikipedia, he got the TY because, quote, my daddy's name is Tyrone, so ever since I was little, everyone just used the first 2 letters of that.
TY.
Also, I learned from the YouTube chat that other teams use those video boards. I was blown away about that.
You were wrong about that.
I had no idea. I hadn't heard of a single team ever doing that. I mean, it's brilliant, and everybody should be doing it, but I found that out.
Yeah, I found that out as well, but you know what? Sometimes we're wrong. Josh Jacobs, allegedly. The Raiders did that. Josh Jacobs suggested it. Now they implemented it. I mean, obviously, Rich Bisaccia has some background with the Raiders. That's where the Packers hired him from. After he was the interim head coach, now the associate head coach and special teams coordinator in Green Bay. So we love new ideas, innovative ideas. I hope you all have a fantastic weekend. I'm going to enjoy Snoop tomorrow at Potawatomi here in Milwaukee. We're back with you Monday beginning at 12:30 on the ESPN Madison, ESPN Milwaukee YouTube streams, or wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Facebook, ESPN Madison. Of course, brought to you by Door County Distillery, locally produced, handcrafted, and award-winning spirits. Appreciate all the insight today, man. Great reaction today. Keep that up. Love that on the live streams. Love reading your comments, getting you involved here on the show, man. I mean, this Jordan Love stuff is really interesting. Will we have a deal by Monday? That I am intrigued by. If you want to talk a little bit more Brewers with me, join me tonight beginning at 6 o'clock, 620 WTMJ. I'm with you for Brewers warm-up, leading into network coverage of the first of a 3-game series between the Brewers and the Reds at AmFam Field this weekend. Salvatore Sal Frelick bobblehead giveaway tomorrow. First 30,000 fans. I got mine, man. It's sweet. It's a sweet bobblehead. So if you're heading out to AmFam Field, make sure you're one of the first 30,000 through the door. Awesome bobblehead tomorrow. Sal Frelick at the Brewers game. Enjoy your weekend. We're back with you Monday, 12:30, right here, wherever you're watching, wherever you're listening. We'll talk to you then. Have a great weekend. Thanks to Hunter. Thanks to Pretty Rickey for all the insight. Yeah, baby. Make it a great weekend. It's Mr. Relevant. I'm Alex Strouf. Peace.